At what point can you look at the injury reserve list and say, nobody could have coached this team to a winning record this year? Let's see.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now officially the #1 sports podcast network on the damn planet, man. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So listen, like throughout the course of this week and throughout the rest of the year, we're going to be having similar conversations with different verbiage and different angles, all centralized around what this coaching staff is going to look like next season. And I talked about this yesterday. I want to get my boy on to get his thoughts. Donnie Druin, Arizona Cardinals writer for Sports Illustrated, the potty master himself. We're going to talk about Jonathan Gannon. We're going to talk about Drew Petzing and how you can scapegoat the hell out of both of them, and if you agree or not. Donnie, you've been there smelling the breath of the coach you've been so close all year, okay? And from the introductory press conference to now, I don't think he's less likable of a dude. He's the same dude. Everybody seems to love him. Everybody seems to love playing for him. For me, it got to a point at the end of the game this past week where I said, the injuries are too much to overcome to have a rational conversation on Jonathan Gannon's performance as a coach for this season. Is that accurate, or is it too little too late and coaches have been fired for far less than what we've endured with him?
I think both are kind of true. I think that very fine line between having injuries as an excuse and like also taking a step back and acknowledging that might be a big reason as to why all of this is played out like it is. Right. I think both could be true. Right? I think a coach's job is to maximize talent, right? Like Jonathan Gannon, and you'll hear every single NFL coach, and they'll say this: injuries happen to everybody. This is not something new to the Cardinals. It's not something new to the National Football League. That is why building a competent roster 1 through 53 during the regular season is so key and so important. However, you also need to have a little bit of nuance to the conversation, right? Like Jonathan Gannon walked into a gunfight with one of those rubber knives against the Los Angeles Rams in week 13. Like we knew the Cardinals weren't going to win. They had us fooled maybe for a little bit whenever it was 7-0 and tied 10-10. And then over the course of the football game, whenever the Rams rattled off 35 unanswered points, it's like, okay, that team has the gun. And the Cardinals clearly just were outmatched from the very, very get-go. I think that's a perfect encapsulation of the season, right? I think you look at all of the injuries that have piled up just one after another, and you can talk about the process, you can talk about next man up mentality, but whenever it's the third and the fourth man up, that takes a toll. That makes a difference. That definitely plays a part in it. But whenever you're evaluating the future of Jonathan Gannon, I think he's the same guy as he was during the introductory press conference. I just think people are tired of hearing the same thing over and over again from him. He was saying the same thing he was yesterday as he was his introductory press conference. We got to stick to the process. We got to refine it. We got to get better. And as a Cardinals fan, placing myself in their seats, it's been 10 losses in their last 11 games, Alex. The process is not working. Yeah. It clearly is not working. I get you don't want to be a result-driven team. I understand that. I respect that. But, you got to change something. And I think that's maybe the biggest thing for Cardinals fans is nothing's changing. It seems like they're getting the same product week in and week out. But is that a result of all of the injuries that we're seeing? Is that a result of maybe Jonathan Gannon having one hand tied behind his back as a result of it? There's so many different weaves and ins and outs to go whenever you talk about Gannon, the Cardinals injuries, and how those intertwine together.
When you take away the heartbeat of the offense, which is the run game, what are you supposed to do? We'll talk about that in the next segment. It's not, again, and I'm sure you've had conversations with Cardinals fans, in your comments, people, commenting on your articles, Sports Illustrated, things like that. It's like, we understand how frustrating this is. Yeah. We're trying to maneuver around rational thought surrounding this team, and it's like, fire everybody. Okay, that's actually a rational thought. I understand that. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. this isn't two sides of the coin. This is a damn kaleidoscope of sides. This is a geometric shape that has infinite amount of sides to discuss because there's so many outliers included this season specifically, one of which is compound interest from the last 2 seasons of losing. So it's like, okay, you look at it in a vacuum, and this is their first season, throwaway. They already had one of those when Kyler Murray tore his ACL and they took over. And last year was supposed to be, well, do you blame coaching or do you blame the actual players playing worse after the bye week starting in Seattle last year? Like, it's not as simple as it's this person's fault, off with their head. Because if that were the case, there'd be so many players and coaches tied for first and they'd be headless. So, it's not as easy as fire Jonathan Gannon. Okay, sure, that makes sense. And also, let's look at the other side. This dude had no shot this year. He didn't do him any favors, it seems, so far this year. But it's not like there's dysfunction in the locker room, which is a far cry from what we've experienced during large chunks of this organization's history. So that's a huge, weird, convoluted double-edged sword that we're experiencing here. It's the best version of dysfunction, and I don't really know how to compute that.
Yeah, there's pros and cons, I feel like, to both sides of the argument, Alex. And I think maybe for one side of the con to firing Jonathan Gannon is the Cardinals for so long have wanted to be a stable franchise. Maybe wins and losses off to the side. Like, it felt like every week under Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, something was happening. Something was going on in the locker room, off the field. There was always some sort of negative Cardinals news release that was going on. That hasn't really been the case in Arizona. There's been a couple of clips here and there. Zay Jones being suspended whenever he first signed here. The whole Jonathan Gannon, the Marty Mercado thing pops into my head as well. But you really haven't seen the Cardinals in the news cycle for wrong reasons since Jonathan Gannon has been here. And it's like, okay, well, that should not be the reason Jonathan Gannon stays.
Yeah.
But if you're Michael Bidwell and you're an organization striving to take that next step, what does that say to other people, fans, potential free agents who want to come here, potential head coaches that want to come here and say, hey, you know what? Like, we are not a model of, I don't even want to say consistency. It's just like you don't attract other outside things by constantly hiring and firing. That's just not the way it works. But also, to play devil's advocate here, I think people who are wanting to cut bait from Jonathan Gannon in this regime, because we haven't even talked about Monty Austinford's spot, which I think, it should be safer than Jonathan Gannon if anybody's on the hot seat here, but that's just my 2 cents. If JG's not the guy long-term, if we have this 3-year sample size where it's like, man, like, I know there's been injuries. I know he's had to deal with X, Y, and Z, but like the coaching has not elevated. He's a defensive guy. This defense has fallen flat on its face in 2025. Like, this was supposed to be the year. He clearly did not handle expectations. Like, a coach's job, and he said it himself, he's responsible for everything out on the football field. With him saying that, he's directly responsible for where the Cardinals are. I don't think he should be fired off of this season's results strictly, but taking everything into account, he hasn't had success here, man.
Yeah, I know.
I see both sides. I do.
I think last year was the big one. Like, if they would have made the playoffs last year, like they were in line to do, they were first in the division going into their bye week, 4-game win streak, all that stuff. And then, the wheels fell off like they've had a proclivity to do over the last 7 seasons. If they were to be able to push through and they would have won the Carolina game and then, potentially beat the Rams and then, ended up making the playoffs, I think you could throw it out. Just because it's an improvement doesn't mean it's a necessary improvement to be relevant. And I think that's difficult. I think the one thing that Michael Bidwell did, while I've praised everything that he did, all the moves he made, he promised he did, everything that he said he was going to do, all of the bigotry and sexism notwithstanding with the ongoing allegations. But, as a football owner, he did what he said he was going to do. The one thing in hindsight, I think, that could have shifted things is there's no Yoda in the coaching staff. Like, there's no 80-year-old dude who's been in the NFL for 50 years, like a Wade Phillips for Sean McVay, like a Jim Schwartz and Ken Wisenhunt for Brandon Staley. I think it was them. There's nobody that's been around the block aside of Jeff Rodgers. Like, Tom Clements isn't here anymore. And I think we talked about that. Like, there's nobody to turn to when he has questions on how to coach, on how to lead as a head coach. And I think that was the biggest shortcoming, that they didn't set him up for success. This isn't like, cleansing him of fault, but it was a trapeze act with no safety net.
So I would rebuttal to that, Alex. I'm pretty confident he put together his own staff. And I think that was not talked about enough whenever he first got here, Alex, is the lack of experience. He gambled. Jonathan Gannon gambled on a inexperienced but like high upside, high energy, young, youthful staff. And for the most part, like, it hasn't really worked. It hasn't worked. Like, Drew Petzing didn't have any play calling experience whenever he was in Cleveland and like other stops. Nick Rallis obviously, was a linebackers coach under Gannon whenever he's the DC in Philadelphia. And like, to be honest, and not to like shift this conversation, but like Nick Rallis hasn't really fallen on the sword for his defensive performance like Drew Petzing has. We've made a lot of noise about Drew Petzing and like what repercussions should come of his offensive performance. You can look at the other side of the ball and say the exact same thing about Rallis. And I think it goes to show you that even this past offseason, they lost their top two assistants in Spencer Whipple and Clayton Adams. Now there's next to nobody in there except Jeff Rogers, whose special teams unit is playing the worst it has in years. There's nobody experienced on that staff. And like, that plays a factor. That plays a role whenever you're on your second 5-game losing streak. You can't walk into somebody's office and say, hey man, like, let's figure this out. You can text, you can make phone calls. I absolutely agree with that. Gannon does have, I'm sure, coaches across the league that he relies upon. But there's no one, I think Yoda's a perfect example, like you pointed out. There's just not a veteran voice on that Cardinals coaching staff right now. And not that that's the reason they're losing, but like, that would sure be nice in a time like now.
It's jet fuel for the flame to start the process is all it is. And for those Chargers fans out there who for sure watch a Cardinals podcast every day, I was wrong. It was Joe Lombardi and Gus Bradley. I said Jim Schwartz. I meant Gus Bradley with the Chargers. Okay. Is the run game the scapegoat for all of this? And it's not as dumb of a statement as I normally say. That means I'm onto something. We'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Bank FanDuel. So NFL Sundays move fast, one play, and suddenly everything feels different. Did you watch the Chargers game and the Eagles game Monday night? They played together. It wasn't two separate games. That's why making live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight reel. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. Like, if you want to take whatever lower level line Michael Wilson starts with receiving yards and receptions and continue to player profit all the way up, you can definitely make some cheese for the rest of the season in FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. Donnie Druin, Arizona Cardinals writer, and Phoenix Suns
writer.
How
about those Suns, Alex Clancy?
Come on, man, you bandwagoner. For Sports Illustrated, hardly any sort of bandwagoning happening in Phoenix. Unless you want to cover the the Mercury, who's the only really long-standing success story here in Arizona.
Rattlers had a good run whenever they were here.
Rattlers had a good run, sure. 700 passing yards a game, absolutely. Okay, so this is something that I've kind of stumbled upon. I wasn't expecting it. I found myself talking about it more and more, and then realizing the ripple effects. When you have a run-first offense and you can't run the ball, we agree that Drew Petzing's scheme that he's planning all week isn't throwing the ball 50 times. But that's what they've got to do to be able to manufacture some sort of semblance of an offense. The running attack being non-existent, Jacoby Brissett leading the backfield last week in rushing, has a ripple effect on amount of plays run. They had 8 of their 11 possessions last week, 5 plays or less. Of those 8 possessions, 5 of which were immediately followed by a Rams touchdown drive. Like, you can't get any sort of semblance of momentum if you can't run the ball, especially in a Drew Petzing offense. Is that the main reason outside of injuries why the Cardinals are losing so many games with the pressure that it puts on the defense, tangentially.
If it's not the main reason,
is that too much of a generalization?
It's got to be up there. I'm not sure if there's like one main reason that sticks out to me right now, but people really don't understand like how easy it is for NFL caliber defenses, especially ones that the Cardinals have to face every year in Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, especially one that they're going to see next week in Houston, to really like know that, hey, like these guys cannot run the ball. Not only can they not run the ball, they basically flat out refuse to run the football. The last 3 weeks, the Cardinals 17.7 rushing attempts per game, ranked second to last in the NFL, only to the Las Vegas Raiders, who have one less carry per game. They have completely abandoned the run for whatever it's worth. One, because they acknowledge they can't run the ball, and two, like if they're down in so many of these games, Alex. Mm-hmm. Like you look up. They're tied 10-10. Then you look up, you're down 35-7. It's like, oh, well, I know what we need to do to get back into this game. Fantasy football players love Jacoby Brissett. Awesome, cool. But like that's not sustainable. I love how you brought up that it's supposed to be a run first offense with Drew Petzing. Like if Drew Petzing had his way, it would be run first, heavy play action, kind of get things going from there, which is exactly what we saw to begin 2024. That's why they were 6-4. That's why they were top of the NFC West, and everything just kind of crumbled. It crumbled because teams quickly figured out, hey, let's load the box on first and second down. Let's force them to obvious passing downs on third down, and let's really see if Kyler Murray can win these games. Kyler Murray couldn't do it. Jacoby Brissett obviously has proved that he cannot do it for as much as production the offense has seen under Brissett compared to Kyler Murray this year. But like too, like another thing with establishing the run or the lack thereof, the defense gets a no break, Alex. Like these are like quick drives to where the Rams are just going boom, 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 just like one play after another, matriculating down the field. The Cardinals defense is gassed, getting to the sideline, and then 4 plays later, they got to be back out there. Like over the course of 60 minutes, over the course of a season, that takes a toll. That absolutely plays a factor into everything. And that's why I love football. I say it every single time I come on here, Alex. Like there's not one little domino that like causes everything. It's all just like this giant spider web of reasons that kind of give hope or lack thereof to what the Arizona Cardinals are. Like it's such a fascinating conversation. But yeah, like not being able to run the ball has really, really bled its way into so many different parts of this team.
Yeah, I did one of these when I don't think I spoke for 30 seconds in one of the shows over the last week where I'm like, how did we get here? It's wild. It's been such a wild, exciting in a terrifying way. It's like every emotion's been felt. And then you just look at it, it's like, how in the sweet mother of bleep did we get here with this team? Because you're right. It's not just one thing. It's like, but for me, it's like, the catalyst for success has been the run game since Josh Dobbs week 1 in Washington, in 2023. Like there's no rest. It's why everybody was pissed off that Marv wasn't getting touched because they were running the ball. They were able to run the ball. And when you lose James Conner, say James Conner was healthy and Marv was out all year. Okay. This team would be exponentially different. And that's not even taking the Michael Wilson. Like say you had Trey Benson and James Conner instead of Marv and Michael Wilson, and you had Greg Dortch and Zay Jones as wide receiver 1 and 2, this offense would still be more competent. I cannot think otherwise because that's Drew Petzing's thing. Now, unless you say that Clayton Adams was the heartbeat, and obviously that's an exercise. We don't have to argue that, but it's like
right.
They can't lean into their strength, and their weakness is at a lot of times pass protection, and they can't do that either, but they have to throw the ball 50 times a game. So it's
my only hesitation to agree with you on that, Alex, is the first 2 weeks of the year, whenever James Conner was healthy, they still couldn't run the ball. They still clearly could not run the ball. I think Clayton Adams' departure clearly had something to do with it. Injuries along the offensive line simply had a lot to do with it too. Like Isaiah Adams, at least at the beginning of the year, clearly was not the guy everybody in Arizona thought that he was going to be. Evan Brown's play has taken a step back this year. We all know the situation at right tackle. And when you have a phenomenal left tackle and like an above average center, I would say in Yoda Froholt, and you have everybody else, Like the offensive line is really one of those units where like you are only as good as your weakest link.
For sure.
And like the Cardinals have, for lack of a better sense, like 3 weak leagues along their offensive line. Like that has to be a priority for them moving into the offseason.
And I'm sorry, quarterback fans, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is if he can't be protected. Oh, and for those that said Paris Johnson Jr. is having a down year, top Pro Bowl vote getter at left tackle out of all the NFL. So when you say you want to fire Monty, when you say you want, I'm not going to go on the tangent now. This is for the offseason. It's like Monty. The only pushback I have is Monty Austinfort got the majority of his picks right, and they just can't stay healthy. Like it is the wildest thing to see Walter Nolan come back for 10 minutes and be out. Will Johnson is at least peppering back in and out. Garrett Williams came off IR, which we thought he tore his ACL, and he was out for the year. Like, nobody can stay healthy, and you have a redeeming quality with Paris who looks to be doubtful. And with that, let's transition into asking you what I talked about in the last segment yesterday. I gave my thoughts. I want yours. Is the Houston matchup going to be the toughest one for the Cardinals this year? Obviously, grading on the injury curve. We'll discuss that with Donnie Druin, Sports Illustrated, right for the Arizona Cardinals and the damn Phoenix Suns next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Mint Mobile. You know, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. And right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All their unlimited plans are 50% off, man. Yo, 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone and give it the Scrooge treatment, man. $15 a month. That's bananas. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage at a lower price. Setup time takes only a few minutes, and you can bring your own phone and phone number without any issues. The service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless saving future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Mobile unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required $15 per month. Equivalent tax and fees. Initial plan term only. More than 35 gigs. May slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. My inflection at the end of live reads is whatever comes out of my body. You know?
Sure.
So,
Love
you know,
that.
you do so many of these. It's just, you got to keep everybody guessing. Donnie Druin, Arizona Cardinals writer, friend of the show. Donnie Donuts. I said, I can't remember what game it was. Oh, I think it was the Seattle game. I tweeted out Houston could get 10 sacks on them when they travel to Houston and play them. And now with Jonah Williams out, even though, you know, Kelvin Beacham's an upgrade slightly, with Isaiah Adams, a downgrade to Will Hernandez, Evan Brown, TBD on if he's going to play. And then, you know, Paris Johnson doubtful as we're recording this. You know, he's week to week with an MCL. Like, how do you combat the best defense in the NFL and potentially the best front in the NFL? Young, hungry, just, fierce, and violent and gross. Everything you wanted the Cardinals pass rush to be. What are we doing here?
You don't. You don't combat it. If we're being serious for a second, I think it's got to be a lot of shotgun with Jacoby. It's got to be a lot of like quick game because like long developing pass plays, play action like that. That's going to be out. It's going to be out of the picture.
Yeah.
Will Anderson working against any tackle the Cardinals threw out there. Yikes. That defense is the top ranked unit in the league for a reason. I mean, like all three levels, defensive line, linebacker, secondary, coached by DeMeco Ryans, who has done a phenomenal job throughout his entire coaching career, but even before getting to Houston. That's scary. On the road, that's scary. Is it the toughest test? Top to bottom, including offenses, I would still put like the Rams slightly ahead of Houston, just because Sean McVay, just because of the potency that they have. And I do think, for what it's worth, the Texans' offense is a little inconsistent, like here or there. But like, what a tall task they have! What a daunting task the Arizona Cardinals have, sitting at 3-10 with me and you getting ready to catch passes from Jacoby Brissett next week. Like, that's. I remember showing up to the press box on Sunday and I'm like, this isn't going to be pretty. And I'm going to sit right here and watch that game on Sunday. And I'm going to say, you know what? This isn't going to be close to pretty. Like, this is going to be so bad.
At least they're hot dogs at halftime. For those who don't know, Cardinals press box, killer hot dogs, pretty good chili,
ice cream sandwiches at halftime too.
Yeah, the ice cream, and then it's not Dippin' Dots. What is it? The little bite-sized ice cream things in the corner, dude. They take care of
the media spread even before the game is phenomenal.
It's outstanding.
Like, I have no complaints about that.
It's outstanding. It's like Thanksgiving every damn day up there. Yeah. So, anyways, back to actually having to talk about something unfortunate. I think the Rams, because I would probably agree. I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I think they're the best team in football over Seattle, everybody else. They're just Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, they just get it. What the Rams did was something that hadn't happened to the Cardinals in quite some time is they stepped on their necks. It's like, 3 and out. Cool. We're going to take a deep bomb. Puka touchdown. Oh, cool. We're going to run this, have this zone read scheme and just, what's his name? Travis Homer. Jesus. Blake Corum is just going to house it from 50. It's just like they just stepped on their necks. And with Houston, I think their offense is misunderstood. I think they're still trying to figure out what they've got. Nico's number, he's a bona fide number one. They have a bunch of young kids alongside him, and then Christian Kirk. The offensive line isn't good. So if the Cardinals want any chance to win, they're just going to have to just bring the house, and whatever you can get home, and make CJ Stroud run for his life. But, I mean, when you have Danielle Hunter and you have Will Anderson trying to disrupt Jacoby Brissett with, Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie just standing there, Kamari Lassiter has been great for them. Like, the nightmare fuel for me is because of who's going to be out there as grading on the curve. Because, I mean, the Cardinals had, Paris Johnson Jr. was out there. I think losing him is a massive step back. And I think that's the equalizer between the two. I mean, but listen, it's bad for both. It's a nightmare scenario for both.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like the Texans are in like very much in a playoff hunt, right? Like in the thick of the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, because they beat Kansas City, so they're gonna have tiebreakers now, and who knows what happens in the AFC South now with Daniel Jones out? Like, it's them in Jacksonville.
Not that they wouldn't have anything to play for if they weren't in that spot, but like you're getting a Texans team that kind of wants to seize the moment now. That like season opening, with Daniel Jones going down, like you said, like coming off of that win against Pat Mahomes and company, like they feel like it's their time, and like I know, there's no dog that's faster than a hungry dog. And like, I get that. But like, if that were true, the Cardinals wouldn't have gone on 2 different 5+ game losing streaks, right? Like, it's just like, it is what it is with them. The Texans are the better team. I mean, the Cardinals were the largest underdogs on the spread last week. That's probably going to be true this week. I haven't looked at the early opening lines yet, but I don't know, man. You go from that Rams front to the Texans front, and like the D'Amico Ryans and everything that he can do, like it's
I mean, and one last comparison between last week and this week. What would you rather play the week after it happened? The Rams losing embarrassingly on the road, or the Houston Texans having their biggest win of the year and their flying high as they've ever been? I'm more scared of this than the Rams coming in like, listen, the Rams are probably going to win the division, even though the Seahawks are there. Like, you give Houston confidence, they've got talent everywhere, and they just haven't been able to figure it out on offense. Like, you get a home game after going to Kansas City and beating Kansas City. It's like,
those guys are going to be proud
another
of that, man.
tee off, dude, for the Cardinals. It's just the worst case scenario over and over and over again. Hey, Donnie, tell people where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, at Donnie Druin on Twitter or X, whatever the cool kids call it. SI.com/NFL/Cardinals.
Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. John Hickman, Crossover Thursday. That's going to be a delight. Oh, he's fantastic. The content's not going to be fantastic for a Cardinals side. We're going to do a great job. Either way, Alex Clancy, remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.